And I'm here going to be answering questions in the chat or relaying them to Kirsten. So if you guys need anything, let us know. This will be about an hour painting. If you can't paint along tonight, you can always find this class and our other classes on michaels.com and their community classroom page. They've got an amazing library of classes. All the products are available at Michaels and michaels.com. Thank you, Michaels, for letting us teach this class. And I'm trying to think what else, all the good things to tell everybody. Definitely check out our Let's Paint with Plaid Facebook group if you haven't, because it is a great online resource of art education, and you can get all your products at Michaels and paint along with the rest of our teachers. And if you're making this painting, definitely post it, because we love to see what you do in these classes. And hashtag make it with Michaels and hashtag plaid crafts so we can see what you've done. So I think that's it.
Oh my God, yay.
Want to get started?
I'm ready to go.
Hi, everybody. I see everybody saying hi.
I love it. I love seeing where everyone's from. That's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Oh, the peacock.
Oh, I missed the peacock. My son had a baseball game.
Percy. We named him, well, some of us. Okay. What do you think? Should we get started or let's
do it.
So while people are still coming in, hey, everyone, welcome. I'm so excited that you guys are here again this week. So we are painting this lavender field, very loose, very easy, lots of fun techniques. Techniques is always what I like to focus on. So if your painting looks a little bit different, if it's a little bit brighter, a little bit darker, all the techniques that you're learning is most important. So first thing I want to do is show you guys what we're using tonight. I'm going to be working on a 10 by 10 stretched canvas. You can use a different size, a little bit larger, a little bit smaller, whatever's best. We are going to be using, like Kira said, FolkArt acrylic paints. They are perfect for painting on canvas. So we are going to be using navy blue. We are going to be using hunter green. This is a new color that I love, vintage tea rose, which is just a really dirty mauve color. Always wicker white. And then we are going to be using Wild Wasabi, which is a really dirty light green. And then Minted Aqua. And then another new color that I love is Succulent, a really soft, dirty, almost gray blue green. So those are the colors that we're using. And then we are using, I think I said last week in the peacock class, I always use a flat brush. And if you don't have the exact brushes that I'm using, a good way to look at it is a large, a medium, and a small flat brush. But the specifics that I have is I have a 3/4 inch, which is my big one. I have a 1/2 inch. I have a number 10, a number 2, and let's see right here, I should have a number 6. So these all come in a great set by Michaels. So this is what you would have seen on your instructions. But again, a medium or a large, a medium, and a small flat brush. And you'll be able to learn all of the techniques that we are doing tonight. And then the palette knife. So you are going to need some form or shape of palette knife. So we are going to, I'm using palette paper. You can use a foam plate, a glass plate, always water, always paper towels, really important because we really don't use any water in tonight's class. So paper towels, and then I'm going to use a little piece of chalk. If you guys have a pencil, that works just as good. I just use the chalk because it shows up great for you guys on the Zoom. Okay, so how's everyone? Everyone's ready?
Very good. If you have a question about the color, let us know specifically, but maybe Kirsten could describe the color. So if you have something similar, just like if they don't have it, so like navy blue is blue and you want to like black and blue, but or like a brighter blue, but maybe Kirsten, as you just talk through the colors, I will kind of talk about them. I think that would help as you go.
Okay. And really, like you'll see, I don't have a light blue in my palette. So we're going to mix navy with white. So any light blue or any dark blue with a white. I'm using a dark green, and I called out on the list a light green. But there again, if you have a dark green, you can mix that with white. So there's so many areas that you can do different things with. And I'll walk you guys through everything. So first things first is, if you've taken a class with me before, I love to do everything on a dark base coat. The reason I like to do that is because it makes layering all these colors that much easier. So using your navy, and this is an area, Kira, where I think in the past we've had people ask, you could base coat with black, with a dark, dark, dark hunter green, with even like a really dark purple, but I'm choosing the navy, and all we're going to do is base coat our canvas. So I'm using my largest flat brush and no water, and I am just going to go into that paint without any water and just give it the canvas a really good even coat. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you'll see the FolkArt acrylic goes on so smooth and such great coverage on that white background with just one coat. So all you want to do is get a really good base coat.
Yep. And again, people are asking lots of questions about the tea rose and the aqua and the succulent. So tea rose is like a dusty, like pinkish purple mauve.
Yep, like a dirty mauve. And we're going to use that to make a lavender, that and the navy. So if you have a lavender that's already pre-mixed or a light purple, keep that on your table and you won't have to mix colors with us.
Right. So yeah, you'll go through them as
for sure. Absolutely. All you're doing now is getting a really even base coat on your canvas. The reason I love to work on a dark color is instead of having to add layer after layer of paint to get all that shading and highlighting, the dark color comes through because we'll be doing a dry brush technique. And it just allows you to almost skip that step of adding dark shadows or dark details. And you just get so much dimension in your painting when you're working on a dark base coat. Another thing I like to always say, and you can either do this with us, or if we're going at a speed that you like to work a little slower, you can always do your edges after the class. But I always say, do to the edge of your canvas exactly what you do to the top, because then when you're all done, these stretch canvases by Michaels are such high quality, you don't even have to add a frame to them. You can hang them without a frame if you complete all your edges and they look nice and finished. So just rule of thumb, even if you do it after our class, do to the sides exactly what you do to the top. And the key to this base coat is good coverage, mostly covered solid. If there's a few areas, don't worry about that, but don't have a lot of paint built up on there, because I'm going to hit this with a hair dryer. I want you guys to do the same, because I want you to always work on a completely dry canvas. If we worked on this navy blue with it wet, it would muddy up all of our FolkArt colors. Okay, so you guys keep base coating, and while you're doing that, I'm going to hit it with a hair dryer. I think that should be, yeah. It dries so quick, and that cheating with the hair dryer just allows it to dry that much quicker. I think one more little spot. I'm going to hit that in the middle while everyone's getting their base coats on. Okay. How are we doing?
Everybody's good.
And you can see the FolkArt is such good coverage, so rich and creamy. Few little areas where if this was something that needed a perfect base coat, you would do a second coat. No need at all to do a second coat tonight. You just want most of your canvas a really dark color. Okay. And make sure you guys hit it with a blow dryer, anyone that's just jumping on now, because you definitely want your base coat to be completely dry. I'm going to keep that in there so that you guys can see it. Okay. Any questions before we get started?
Nope. I think people are just base coating.
Okay. Maybe give you a minute to get your base coat nice and dry. And for those that are ready, what we're going to do next is we're going to apply our pattern. And I'm going to use chalk. And I use the white chalk. You could use a little piece of pink, yellow, green, any chalk, or a pencil. I'm just not using a pencil because I want you guys to be able to see it. Whatever you're using to apply a pattern, just be really light-handed because you don't ever want to have to work to cover up your pattern. You want it more as a guide to place your colors, not as something that you use like a coloring book. So really light-handed, whether it be a pencil or a piece of chalk. Okay, how's it looking? Everybody
Good.
ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I'm doing a painting, again, I don't want anyone to apply a perfect pattern because I think sometimes a pattern is intimidating. It gives you kind of the assumption that you have to paint exactly where your pattern is. What we're going to do is we're going to break everything out into pieces and shapes. And I always like to measure with my hand. So you guys can see right here, maybe all 4 fingers is how high my horizon line is from the base of my canvas. So simple rules like that, like I'll measure with 2 fingers, I'll measure with my hand. So I'm going to measure with my hand, and all I'm going to do is a really soft line separating my sky from my ground. If you want less clouds and more lavender fields, go higher. If you want less, go lower. Definitely make this painting your own, but that's just a rule to kind of measure with your hands and do a really soft pattern. And then I'm going to break these little clumps of flowers into shapes. So this bottom one, I'm just going to do kind of a little curved oval on the bottom. That's this little first lavender group. And then this one over here, just a really long, irregular oval. Remember, nothing perfect. This is just placement for your elements. And then over here, just almost like, I don't know, like a little zebra stripe. Just a little oval with an irregular edge. You don't want it to look like an egg. It's just going to give you placement for your flowers. And then you can see these green bushes that are off in the distance, just almost like a cloud with a flat bottom. I'm going to leave that little spot open, and then another little section of bushes over there. Now the clouds is something some people like to put a pattern down for that. Some people don't. I am going to put 3 clouds down just for placement. But remember, we don't want to use this as a guide to work like a coloring book. So in the center, just really light, really irregular edge, I'm going to put a cloud or the placement of a cloud. I'm going to do a really little cloud up there in the edge. And then up here, the cloud's going to be falling off the top of the canvas. Just another circle. And even if that placement's there, the chalk you can rub right off. If you're using pencil, don't erase because you'll just stretch your canvas. Just draw another one if your placement's a little bit off and you want to fix it.
All right. Give everybody a minute to get caught up with their job.
Absolutely. And I'm always a little shaky, but if that is helpful, it looks like 3 baked potatoes in the sky. What does it look like? But see, very simple shapes and just placement. How's that? Remember your horizon line because that's what will divide our canvas from the sky and the ground. And the rest is just placement. Clown face. Yeah, a scary clown. Okay. While people are doing their pattern or just their shapes for placement, I am going to put some paint on my palette. So I always have white. I use white with everything. So always you want some white on there. We are going to not use the dark green yet. We're going to put a little bit of the vintage tea rose. And don't put them right next to each other because we are going to do some color mixing today. And I want you guys to have an area to bring colors together. And then this is Wild Wasabi. And that's what we're going to start with. If you don't have any navy left though, make sure you've got some navy. Okay. So dry brush technique is how we apply our base coat, our placement of color. And with that, you don't want to ever have any water in your brush. If you clean your brush in your water in between colors, that's perfectly fine, but get it as dry as you can on the paper towel because the dry brush technique allows you to have the navy blue background, also allows you to have the texture of the canvas. So water will make that not happen. So that's why you always want to have a really dry brush. So what we're going to do first is we are going to dry brush the areas that will be a green field. So I'm working with my number 10, but you would just use your medium flat brush, whatever size. That could be an 8, it could be a 12. For some people, it might even be a 1/2 inch, but I'm just using a number 10 flat brush, no water, and just loading that brush, not too much paint at all. And then what I want you guys to do is I don't want you to outline. I don't want you to follow your patterns. I want you to just figure out the area that's going to be green. And I want you to do very random, almost someone said months ago in a class, almost like slip slap, like just slapping the paint back and forth and not in one area. I don't want you to create a pattern like tile. I don't want you to start and stop on the same side. I want you to jump around because you can see when there's more and less paint coming off of your brush, it gives you different shades of that same color. So just back and forth, very random, not too much paint because remember, you can always add more, but you can't take any off. And you want to jump around those sections so that you get all of those different values of the same color just by how much brush or how much paint is on your brush. Very loose, very random. Almost like you're polishing that section of your canvas with that light green. You can see I'm kind of covering up the chalk, but you're still leaving the spot open where your little lavender fields will go. Right up to the edge of the canvas. But you definitely want to jump around in those areas so that you don't create a consistent pattern. If you start on one side, it'll always be dark on this side and go to light, dark on this side and go to light. And it'll be hard to break that up. So that's why you just kind of work all around the areas that are going to be green. This is really where you can absolutely see the benefits of working on a dark color. Let me hold that up. See where, it's kind of hard to see, but see where the texture of the canvas comes through, the navy comes through a little bit stronger in different areas, just giving you all of that dimension. That's why we're not using water and why we're working on a dark base coat. Make sure you don't cover up all that navy though. You can kind of go back and a little bit of a line, but nothing specific and nothing exact, just to kind of straighten out that line where your sky meets the grass. Okay, so you've got that on there. And then all I'm gonna do is clean my brush. I'm not even gonna go into the water. All I'm gonna do is take that brush and I'm gonna get any excess green off on the paper towel. And I'm going to pick up just the littlest bit of white. And remember, always add more, but you can't take any off. And I'm going to do that same thing, just going over the green with just the wicker white. And these are just little highlight areas where the sun would hit the grassy field. But again, not starting on one side and working left to right or top to bottom. You want to be very loose and very random. If you've got a spot maybe where too much navy is showing, you can either go over that with a little bit of the white. You can add more of the green. You can go back into your green and white, as long as you don't add water, but just get a really good base coated dry brush area for all your little areas that are your field. Let me hold that up one more time. It's kind of hard to see, but see where the white, we're just using 2 colors. And on that navy, you've just got so much dimension. Okay, so now we are going to mix a really soft lavender. I'm going to clean that brush in my water and dry it as good as you can on the paper towel. And I'm going to take a little scoop of the tea rose, a little scoop of the white, just to create a softer tea rose color, a little bit more of that wicker white, and a dark color. Whenever you're mixing colors, a dark color like a navy, like a hunter green, like a black, like a burgundy, a little goes a long way. So I am barely going to dip in that navy, just the littlest corner, and I'm going to mix that into that tea rose and white. A dark color will power through when you're mixing colors. And again, another spot, you can always add more, but you'll never lighten that color back up. So just the littlest bit of navy in the tea rose. And you can see you get just a really dirty, muted, soft lavender. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of that paint, not all of it, but off on my paper towel, because again, we want to do that dry brush technique. And the same thing in your little areas of color where your flowers are. I want you to just go back and forth, same way that we did the green, hopping back and forth, applying that light lavender color to those sections. And go right up onto the green. Because we use such little paint, that green is actually probably pretty much dry. And because we use such little paint, going over it won't muddy up the 2 colors. So overlap just a little so that you don't have a navy blue outline separating the green from the lavender. No water, and just a really loose crisscross brush stroke to place where your little lavender fields will be. But you can see in that lavender area, the same thing. You've got beautiful dimension because of that dark base coat that we started with. If you're a really fast painter and you're waiting on all of us to catch up, don't forget, do to the edge what you would do to the top. And right here, you would just extend lavender, like maybe down here where there's lavender from here to here. Just make a little mark and do those edges. So do to the sides what you do to the top. But this is also something that's really easy to do after the class. But see, you just want those edges to match the top. I'm going to focus on the top. Okay, so we've got a good amount of purple laid down. And the same thing, I'm not going to clean that brush. I'm just going to go into that wicker white. And I'm going to lightly do that same technique, putting little spots of white in those areas where the lavender is. You can see there's no outline between the green and the purple. You want to be really loose and just let that paint overlap. You've both covered up your pattern and you've also just softened the edge. If you need more purple, just a little bit of that tea rose, the tiniest bit of navy, because remember, a dark color will change a color so quick. If you want your lavender fields to be a little more pink, add less navy. And if you want them to be a little bit more purple, you would just add a little bit more navy into that tea rose. The reason we're not using red or pink when we're using that really beautiful tea rose color is I just wanted it all to be very, very similar values, very soft, very muted colors. You could do this exact same technique with a bright purple, with a bright green. But for today's, we just wanted a really soft color palette. Little bit of white, but not in any particular area. You're just adding spots of color where the sun would hit the flowers. So you should have a really good base coat below your horizon line. Cleaning off my brush, and I'm gonna skip down to my number 10, again, which is just a flat brush and dry with no water. And now what we're gonna do, excuse me, is we are gonna dry brush all the areas where our light blue sky is. So we are gonna mix another color. I'm gonna get some navy and I'm gonna scoot that down there on my palette. I love Wicker White, so I always have a bunch on my plate. I'm gonna scoot a bunch of white down there. And I'm gonna mix a really soft light blue. Mostly Wicker White with just a touch of navy. Now here is where the succulent color, which is the most beautiful, it's almost like a really soft, I don't know, green aqua with a little bit of gray in it. It's a great color to kind of darken up this blue a little bit. So just a little bit of the succulent green into the light blue that I mixed. But if you're not comfortable mixing paints, you could use any light blue. You wouldn't have to add this little succulent color at all. All you want is a really soft muted light blue. I'm gonna get any extra paint off on my paper towel, and then I'm gonna dry brush, same technique as before, all those areas that will just be the sky. Don't forget, these are your dark green bushes and these are your 3 clouds. If you don't want any clouds, make this painting something that is perfect for you. You don't have to have any clouds. You can just have a beautiful blue sky. Absolutely do what you want. But just, again, not starting on the side, not working left to right or top to bottom, not creating a pattern, just very loose, random strokes. We're really just base coating is almost what we're doing, but while we're base coating, we're creating all that dimension.
And what color for the sky, Kirsten?
So we have mixed navy with Wicker White and then a touch of that succulent, which makes it more of a gray, like a grayer blue.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
No, people are painting.
Good. Starting to come together. And then what I'm going to do is exactly what we've done in every other area. Keeping the brush with the blue on it. I'm going to just go in just into the Wicker White and just do a few areas. But again, not a lot of paint. Absolutely no water. And just creating a base coat. Instead of a solid base coat that we would have to go and add shadows and highlights to, we're just adding a really soft base coat. And the navy blue is working as our shadows. And you can see right here where the green meets the sky. Don't create a really straight line because everything on our painting tonight is going to be just really loose. So go right up over just where the green meets the blue. Let me see if I can hold that up. So you don't want to keep a straight navy blue line. You want those two colors to meet. The more light blue you add with the dry brush, the brighter your sky will be. For those that like the palette knife, we're going to go back in and just add a little dimension at the end with the palette knife. If you don't want to do that and you want to skip that step, maybe add just a little bit more dry brush strokes, because that way you'll just get a brighter color. You've covered up your patterns. And now I'm going to just dry that brush off. I'm not even going to go into the water on my paper towel. And I'm going to go just into the white. And I'm going to do that same technique where my clouds are. Jumping a few times into the other clouds because you don't want that same value of white. As your brush gets less paint in it, you start to see more of the background. And that gives you all those different almost values of white, but not really, because the base coat is what's doing that. Here is a good area where I want to show you guys. So I had a pattern, but I don't want you guys to outline it. I just want you to use it as a guide and do this really loose technique over that area that you applied your pattern. Overlapping on the blue so that the cloud is there and it's represented, but it's not a big dot in the sky. It's soft and loose against that light blue color. And still no water at all. If you use water, you'll lose all of that. Really, the first thing you would lose is the great texture that the canvas creates when working with no water. And that's just something I really love in a style of painting like this. Clouds are always so hard to me because you get a perfect shape in your sky. And that's always something that I've really worked to not do. So that's where I think when you overlap the white with this technique over that blue, it just really softens up your sky. You can see the clouds and the placement, but they're not like cartoon clouds. Okay, I'm gonna hold that up one more time. I never know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you can see you've got all of the base coat, but also all of that navy blue coming through. The only thing you should have left are those two little areas that are our bushes that are out in the distance. How's it going, Kira? Any questions?
Nope.
Not a one. Wow.
Happy we're painting.
That's either good or bad. I can only see one painter and she looks very serious and she's doing a very good job. Okay, no questions. Is that a good thing? How's the speed?
Fast, but again, you can always catch up after the fact. So
okay,
I think it's okay.
You sure? I can hold on for a minute. What do you think? Keep going?
Yeah, give people just a few minutes.
Perfect. So all we're really doing is applying a dry brush base coat. Light blue, white for the clouds, overlapping so you don't get a perfect pattern, making sure you're just always aware of the line that separates your sky from your ground. And then 3 little patches of flowers. Again, you can do one big patch. You could fill your whole field with lavender. You could do just a few stripes like you sometimes see, but just placement for the green field, the lavender flowers, the clouds, and the sky. Okay, for anyone that's ready, all we're gonna do is I'm gonna put the darkest green which is hunter green, but any dark green that you guys have is perfect. I'm still using my number 10 or my medium flat brush. And all I'm gonna do is the same dry brush base coat in these little areas. And you know what, this is always, using a dark color is always hard because it looks like I'm not doing anything on the canvas because of the camera. So I'm gonna add a little bit of white, but just that same technique back and forth on these little areas where your bushes are off in the distance. So hunter green. And here's a good spot. You could pick up a little bit of that Wild Wasabi, which is the light green that you did on your fields. You don't want too much because I really like that these are really dark because they're so far in the distance. It just separates the sky from the front. And same thing here. You want to overlap and go right over some of that blue. The FolkArt acrylic, using acrylic is something that I love because it dries so fast. It allows you to layer color after color after color. And that is something that I love. With oils, you would have to just keep waiting and waiting. So you can layer this green right over that blue, just really loose and random. Remember, almost like, I loved when someone said this months ago, almost like you're dusting that section of the canvas, just back and forth and covering up that line between the blue, the navy blue, and the sky. A little bit of this light green, just to have a few little highlights. Nothing too much. And make sure you have a really irregular edge. Okay, so you should have a really beautiful painting. This right here would work as a finished painting, but it is just our base coat for now. And this is where I think I said in the beginning, I really, really want you guys to focus on techniques. Techniques is something that years ago, someone told me that when you learn techniques, you can apply it to everything. And it just makes every type of painting or crafting that you do that much more fun. Okay, I'm gonna give everybody a little bit of time to catch up. And still no questions?
I don't know. I think people are really just painting, or, you know, I love that you're watching now and getting inspired, and then you can go back and watch.
Perfect.
The classes are usually up within about 24 hours, and then you can just watch and pause and paint.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'm actually going to rotate my palette so that you guys can see this that much better. Okay.
Like someone asked if you put white into the sky.
If I did, yeah. So I did dry brush with light blue first. And then just like we did in every different color, I did a little bit of white just to really separate and blend everything together. And then I also did only white in the cloud areas. Yeah. Is that the question?
Yeah, and it's okay. Yeah. Someone said they have a lot of their background showing, so you can always go back in and fill in if you have too much navy showing. That's totally fine.
Definitely. If you have too much navy on certain areas, just do a heavier or a second coat of dry brush. Like maybe right there, you can see that maybe it's a lot of navy. I like that. But if you wanted to soften that and get rid of some of that navy, this is just that same color and a second coat of the dry brush. And you can see how it just adds another layer of color, even though it's the same color, because it only covers up some of that navy. So soften it as much as you want with just a second layer of dry brush. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to add a little bit of Wicker White in 3 little spots. I'm going to add a little bit of this tea rose. And you do not have to do this if you are good at color mixing. But if you're not, this might be a good area where I'm going to be able to explain it a little bit better. and then 3 dots of navy. So what we want to try to get, and not specific, not exact, definitely mix your colors to what is best for you. But I want to get a medium, a dark, and a lighter lavender by mixing these colors. So to do that, lightest would be more white, medium would be a little less white, and the darkest shade of lavender would be even less white. So what, again, if you're a great color mixer, or if you're using lavender right out of the bottle, kind of ignore this and just get your dry brush good. So on this one, it's going to be mostly white. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that tea rose and a little bit of that navy and bring it towards my white. A little bit of that tea rose and mix it in with my white, using that white as the dominant color because I want a really light color.
So it's white, tea rose, and navy. So white, purple, and your navy.
Yep. And just a little bit of navy, because remember, a dark color will overpower any color that you're ever mixing. Okay. So I've got a light lavender. Just going to kind of wipe that on the paper towel. Now I want a medium color right here. So I'm going to bring a little bit of the white over towards the tea rose and a little bit of navy. Oh, that's too much because you can always add more. And I'm going to mix my color in the middle, which will be less white, more of the tea rose. And again, if it doesn't match the color that I've got or that you guys are seeing, that is totally okay. You just want 3 values of a soft rose purple color. You can see that one's lighter, that one's a little bit darker. Again, I'm not going to go in water. I'm just going to kind of push that on the paper towel. Let me bring my paper towel in there. All I'm doing is cleaning that up. And now we're going to go to the navy side just so you guys can see it, but that is too much navy. So you're going to bring your white over. You want to bring a lot of your tea rose over. Don't scoop that whole pile of navy because remember, you can't go back, but you're going to scoop a good bit of the navy, but always adding more to get that value exactly how you want it. So I need a tiny bit more navy. So just a tiny little dot. And you can see it's a really soft gray lavender. So you can see lightest, medium, and dark, just to really give you some different values. They can be different. They can be more pink. They can be more purple. Have fun mixing the colors, but just, I hope that was kind of a good reference on how to get 3 values with using the same colors. So now all we're going to do is to add some dimension to our lavender fields. I'm drying off that brush on a paper towel, and I want a really good chisel edge. The chisel edge is the flat end of the brush. And I'm going to start with the dark color first that I made. And I'm going to dip that chisel edge into that paint, not too much, and only using the chisel edge, which again is the flat end of the brush, holding it straight up and down. I'm just going to pounce very random up and down, almost like little dashes, but jumping around back and forth. You don't want to create up and down straight, perfect lines. You want to just go up and down, almost like an old-fashioned typewriter. Using the chisel edge only, not the side of your brush, and just adding some dimension.
And you're starting with the darkest color, Kirsten, that you made?
Yep, I'm starting with the darkest color first. So I did a little bit there, and then I'm going to go over here and do a little bit, chisel edge only. I think my hand might be in the way. So chisel edge only, straight up and down, and just going up and down, pouncing that dark color over just a few sections. I'm focusing a little bit on the edge of these little lavender fields. Picking up paint when you need it, but again, only on that chisel edge. You're going a little bit over the green, a little bit over the purple, but all you're doing is adding that darker value to what you've already base coated. Don't outline them. Don't do them exactly the same on each one. Just pick a few different areas and soften the edges, add some dark purple just to create that dimension. Almost like a spouncer where you're just pouncing, almost like even if you were using a sponge, but you're using just the end of that chisel edge. The reason we use the chisel edge is because then we're not covering up all of the dry brush base coat that we've already applied. And then same brush, I'm going to go into my lighter purple that I made, still on the chisel edge, and I'm going to repeat that same technique in different areas on my little lavender fields. You don't want to cover up the dry brush and you don't want to cover up the navy because that's what gives you all of that dimension. But you just want to add little sections of color by pouncing up and down on that chisel edge. You want to go, let's see if I can hold this up. I'm going a little bit over the green, but very loose and very random. I'm going to do that up here on this one. Don't pounce so hard that you flatten out your chisel edge. Remember, you're keeping it nice and smooth because that's what's giving you kind of a long pounced pattern, not a sponge pattern that a sponge would create. Just make kind of defining the flowers a little bit. And I'm going to clean off that brush and I'm going to go into that lightest color and do the same thing. This might be a good area where you can see it the most.
Yeah. Hey, Kirsten, could you pounce on like a palette or the napkin and hold it up so they can see your technique? Please.
Yeah, let's see. So all I'm doing, let me get a clean napkin. All I'm doing is, so straight up and down on the brush, I'm going to hold it a little bit at an angle so you guys can see it, but straight up and down. And on that chisel edge, which is the flat, you know, the bottom part of the brush. And all I'm doing is going up and down. It's hard to see on the napkin. So I'm going up and down. But there where it's creating lines, that's why you can see I'm kind of jumping around. My hand is covering it, let's see. So up and down on that chisel, but then keeping it really random and going back and forth. Does that make sense a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful.
Okay.
Someone asked if they could use an angular brush for this.
Yeah, you definitely could because the only thing that really matters is keeping that chisel edge. You don't want to mash down so you get a sponge effect. You just want that flat chiseled edge. And an angle brush would do the same thing. You would just hold it a little bit different. If you've got an area that's too dark or an area that's too light, go back and forth in your 3 values of purple without adding any water and soften up an area if it's too dark or too light. It just gives the impression of details in our flowers because with this style painting, we're not painting each individual flower. We're just really doing a loose representation of where all that lavender would grow. Okay. How's that going? Any questions?
No.
Okay, so what we're, oh, go ahead. Was there a question?
You're good. Nope, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so the lavender's on there and really the main thing I want you guys to see is that we're just layering with this style of painting. We're just layering color. No rhyme or reason. It's not only dark on the top. It's not only medium value in the middle. It's just different values of color all around, no pattern, very loose, very airy. And then that navy is still coming through, which just gives you that much more value. Okay, I'm gonna clean my brush in the water. Always drying it off on the paper towel. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to use the palette knife. The palette knife is, again, just a tool that you can do so much with. Some people love the palette knife. Some people are just still getting to know the palette knife. The palette knife I use is just a very basic plastic palette knife. There are palette knives that are wider, thicker, metal, different color plastic. They all work exactly the same. So whatever palette knife you're using tonight is perfect. It's more about technique and less about using the exact palette knife that I'm using. Okay, so what we're going to do to add even more dimension to our painting is using the palette knife, and I'm going to show you guys the basic techniques right here. So I'm going to put Wild Wasabi, which is, again, whatever light green you guys are using, and a little bit of Wicker White on my palette. And this is a great area to show you where to use it. I am going to use the palette knife for the light green fields. So to use the palette knife, to load it, all you do is pounce into the color you want and kind of pull away from your pile of paint just to take some of that paint off of it. And there's no right or wrong. If you're loaded a little bit higher or a little bit lower, that is totally fine. You just want to get that color onto your palette knife. And then I always load it or double load it with a little bit of white. But here again, I don't want you to worry. I don't want you to overthink it. You've got the green in there. And then I just want you to pounce some white in there. If you have more white or less white, or it's higher or lower, again, that is absolutely okay. You just want to have the color that you're using with a touch of white to soften the color. So when you're using a palette knife, you don't want to mash down onto your canvas. You want to just touch down on your canvas and very lightly, almost let the palette knife drag across your canvas. You can see there's more paint, less paint, no paint, and then more paint there. All you're doing is letting it jump across your canvas, picking up paint as you need it, always a touch of white, flat with your canvas, and just dragging it lightly across the areas that you want to add some more dimension to. And one thing I always like to tell people using the palette knife, or really using any tool for that matter, is do what is comfortable for you. So for me, it's always comfortable to pull towards me. So I always want to pull towards me. If it's more comfortable for you to go left to right and you need to turn your canvas and hold your knife however it's most comfortable for you. So into that green, a little bit of the white, maybe practice on a paper plate or your palette. But see, you just want those different blocks of color. Okay, we're going to our canvas. Little bit of green and a little bit of white. No rhyme or reason. You just want color on your palette knife. So where I'm going to start, where the dark green bushes meet the grass. And I am going to line up my palette knife right there. Very, very light-handed. I'm not going to mash down. And all I'm going to do is pull that towards me, picking up paint as I need it, where that horizon line meets the dark bushes, and just pull towards me. You don't want solid coverage. What the palette knife is allowing you to do, let's see if you guys can see this. So that is the same color that we dry brushed, but you can see it looks like 3 or 4 different shades of green because of the way we're applying the same color paint. So picking up green, a little bit of white. I'm going to do that one more time, just kind of pulling over that dry brush that we've already created. Same exact colors. very light-handed. There's not a horizon line here, but there's a defined area between those two little patches of flowers. I'm just going to drag that palette knife, always pulling towards me, just to create. See, there's a perfect spot. See right there, I had the dry brush green and then the navy, same exact colors as the dry brush. It just gives you another dimension of color. If you want more or less of that texture, go in there and add it. And don't overthink loading your palette knife. I'm going into the green and then I'm going into the white. You don't want to create a pattern. You never want to go in a circular motion. You never want to scrub back and forth. You just want to pick whatever direction is comfortable for you guys. Some people like to go left to right. That's harder for me. I like to just pull it towards me. But just adding another layer of dimension into that light green. Cleaning the palette knife. No need for water until the very end. Just going to remove that on a paper towel. And I'm going to sneak in there and pick up, can you guys see that? That light lavender that we made. And a little touch of wicker white. No rhyme or reason. I'm going to pat that on my palette knife or on my palette paper. And I'm just going to also pull that just to add some dimension over those little areas where the lavender is. A little bit of white. Just kind of pull that down. Almost as little areas where the sun would hit those flowers. Just pulling towards me with that lightest lavender. I'm going to go into the little bit of the medium tone that I've got. A little touch of white and do the same thing. Now, this is a technique and you don't have to do it, but something fun with a palette knife is to use that sharp side edge. And because we've got little fields of flowers, you can just go in to that paint where it's wet, where you've just applied it with the palette knife and almost scratch just a few little straight lines. That is really just a fun technique that just adds some dimension or some, it represents maybe a flower or a stem. Don't have to do it too much, but you can just do it in some of those areas. Again, I'm not going to use any water. I'm just going to wipe that on a paper towel. And if you guys don't have any hunter green on your palette, get a little bit more of that. So now what I'm going to do is I want to add some dimension to these dark bushes and to the horizon line. This is a great area to see how wonderful a palette knife is. So I'm loading that darkest green onto my palette knife, a little touch of that light green. Remember, don't overthink it. There's no right or wrong. And what I'm going to do is I am actually very light-handed. I am going to go right over that horizon line. It's hard to see because it's thin. I'm going to pick up a little more of the dark green. I'm going to go right over. See how it's just the softest irregular line separating your sky from your field. And then what I want to do right here is just barely pull down. You don't want to pull all the way into your light green. All you want to do is almost soften that line where your trees are in the distance. So I'm going to go right there and just barely pull down. The reason I love to do this with a palette knife is because it allows you to kind of not overthink that line. If you were doing it with a brush, you would have a tendency to try to be perfectly straight, and that wouldn't work with this style of painting. So I've got the dark green. I'm going right where my bushes meet the lighter green and just barely pulling down. It's just really breaking up that edge where your bushes in the distance are meeting your field. A little bit more green with a touch of that Wild Wasabi. And I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to pull away from me. If you're comfortable pulling towards you, like we've been doing on the fields, flip your canvas upside down and do that same technique. Just pull towards you, just to add some dimension with the palette knife. You can see this is the same green that we used dry brush, but see how doing it with the palette knife, a dark color is hard to see, but that same color gives you so many different values by how you apply the paint. If you want your horizon line to be a little bit darker, you could just barely pull up, separating that from the sky. Don't create a perfect line, because this style of painting, you don't want any of your lines to be perfect. Everything is very loose. I'm going to clean that palette knife off. Kira, everyone is so quiet. Is anyone still on?
No, yeah, no, lots of people. I think everybody's just watching. They said, can you hold up the painting to see some of the texture?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm just here painting all by myself.
No, I know it's hard when you're on the other end.
I know.
That's when I do the resin, I have a mask on and I can't talk.
That's even worse. Yeah. And no questions? No questions about the dreaded palette knife? I think people
everybody's getting used to it.
I hope so. It's just such a fun tool. Like all of these techniques that we've done tonight are so fun to just create a big abstract or a background for anything. It's just a technique that you can use over and over and over again on so many different things.
Yeah, everybody just said they're enjoying it.
Yay, I'm so glad. Well, then all we're going to do now is that same technique on our sky using the palette knife. So if you don't have any of the light blue that you pre-mixed ready, I'm just going to mix it again. And do not worry here if it's not the same value, but I'm going to have white and a touch of navy. I'm going to make that light blue. I want to dirty it up a little bit. So that's where I'm going to add a little bit of that succulent, that really soft gray mint green. Get a light blue for the sky color. If you had some already mixed from earlier, that's perfect. I just had to mix some more. Same technique. I'm pouncing that palette knife, no water. In and out. You don't want tons of paint dripping, but you definitely want a good amount of paint on here. This is a great example of where I have to turn the canvas. Don't mess up or be intimidated by keeping your canvas straight. Move that canvas however you need to move it so that it is comfortable for you. So I'm going to make sure I've got some blue on there, a touch of Wicker White. But again, no rhyme or reason, just two colors in there. And just where the light blue already is with the dry brush, I'm just going to scoot that palette knife over that area, picking up paint as you need it. Don't outline your clouds. Don't outline your bushes. You're just placing color. You're placing color and texture by just letting that palette knife just softly skim across the area that's already been dry brush base coated. If you overlap into your clouds a little bit, I think that's wonderful because it just softens those clouds. You don't want them to look like little pom-poms. Here's a fun spot where I love to put, like I'm randomly going to pick up a tiny bit of that, what is it? Vintage tea rose. I've still got the blue on there. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white, and you guys don't have to do this. I just want to show you how much fun it is to add little spots of color with this palette knife. So you can see now I've got a little bit of tea rose, a little bit of white, and a little bit of blue. No rhyme or reason. I've just pounced in those colors. A little bit more white. And don't do this if you don't want to, but I just want to show you, you know, when you look out in a really beautiful sky and there's little bits of pink with the palette knife, it's a great way to add. Let me see if you guys can see that. Oh, it's hard to see on these, but just a little bit of pink, which if you applied that with a brush, you would have a tendency to want to work it in to have it almost be like a pattern. The palette knife just lets it fall onto the canvas in such a soft, random pattern that it's so much prettier than what you would get if you used a brush. Oh, there's a good spot. See, just a little touch of pink in my sky, but because that palette knife just skims across the surface, it allows that to fall in just the right spot. Then I'm going to clean off my palette knife again, just on a paper towel. At the very end, you could clean it with some soap and water. But when you're just switching colors like this, you do not have to. So I'm going to load just in the Wicker White now, not in any color at all. And I'm going to do that same thing, going on the areas where my cloud is and just pulling just the Wicker White. Very light-handed. If you mash down, you'll get a solid stripe. That you don't want. Very light-handed, very flat to the canvas. You just want to pull that color just over the area that you've already base coated. White is a great spot to see. Let's see if I can show you guys this. You've got the dry brush, you've got the palette knife, all with just white, but it looks like several different colors. On this top cloud, just loading into the Wicker White, just skimming that across. Now, one thing I also like to do is the Wicker White is just such a beautiful pop of sunlight. So maybe on my horizon line, I'm just barely gonna touch that with my palette knife loaded with the Wicker White. Just Wicker White. I'm going to just lightly skim maybe just a few areas on the little lavender patches. Sometimes I like to go along the very edge. So just the very edge of the canvas. Again, I'm only using the Wicker White on that palette knife and just letting that jump around. Maybe pulling in a little bit. You can see you get the texture of the canvas, which is such a beautiful look. And then you just get little areas where the sun, and maybe just the littlest bit, again, very light-handed, just gonna let it naturally fall onto areas where the texture of the canvas. But that palette knife is such a fun tool to get that much more dimension. How's it going with the palette knife? I always get nervous when I bring out the palette knife.
No, somebody said, this is my first attempt painting this type of painting. My brain's saying no, it's too messy. Love the challenge.
Don't give up. It will be.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's great techniques. And it's something, again, play with the palette knife just on a piece of paper and load different colors.
Yeah, repaint your canvas too.
Yeah.
Base coat it navy and start over.
Yeah, definitely. Because the canvases, you will have a little bit of texture, but that'll just add to your painting. So that's Lavender Fields. I'm wondering, not any questions about the palette knife. We always get, Kira, other things that we can use. And what do we tell them? Like
a gift card, a piece of cardboard, a plastic knife, plastic spoon.
Yep, so many different things. You just want to be really light-handed, and you want to have very little paint and never any water.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that is Lavender Fields, very loose, getting ready for summer and for spring. I want to show you guys next week. No questions. Now's a good time?
Yeah.
Okay. So next week's class, I had to sneak and get it. Oh, this is so beautiful. So this is Jessie. She's back next week. And this is painting Let's see, does it open up? So this is painting on glass. So it's this beautiful little abstract lemon. And what she'll be doing is on 2 panes of glass. So you're layering your painting with a base coat and then with your details on top. So yes, such a fun class to get ready for summer. Love that so much. So that's next week.
Yeah, that's awesome. So get your frames, get your glass. Jessie will be doing that. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Michael, so much. Thank you guys for spending Monday night. If you weren't painting along, go back and check out this class. It'll be up within 24 hours. Yep. Thank you guys. We'll see you. We've got craft breaks this week on Wednesday. We got another class. So we will see you guys. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.